My name is Jackie Joseph. I'm an actor. I am the Women's Senior Chair of SAG-AFTRA National. And oh, thank you very much. It's my pleasure. And I'm so pumped to being here. SAG-AFTRA Senior Committee is kind of split in two parts. Part of it is just doing the basic homework, helping with finances, helping with technology, helping with health and welfare. But my agenda, and also I hope everybody else's, is to get us a consortium. We have taken our first baby steps, and it's really going to happen. It's kind of a big idea, but we need a bunch of people to help redefine what a senior is and to change the perception that people have of senior people. Like I'm just standing with a couple of actors from SAG-AFTRA here, and what we have in common is that we're all senior people.
Yeah.
However, the difference is vast. I could be their mother, and they're still a senior person. So there is a differential in seniorhood that isn't being paid attention to, and we would really like to clear that up. And so it was our pleasure when we had the opportunity as a senior committee to sponsor this event, and so impressed that the people that I have behind me and that I get to introduce. I'm going to start by introducing Rachel Feldman. Wave. Hi, Rachel. Nice to meet you. This is an extremely impressive woman. She's directed more than 60 hours of broadcast film and television, and this season, she has directed this season's rookie multiple episodes for CBS of Blue Bloods and Criminal Minds, as well as a pilot for a now streaming series for MGM. How did you have time to get here, Rachel? Would you please wave at Marsha Ross? Hi, Marsha. So glad to have you here. Sharon Carney?
Sherry Carney.
Sharon Carney. Yes, Sharon, the oldest senior. Yvonne Cole.
Yeah.
Yvonne. She says, you're going to be so impressed when you hear from Katha Gentis. Katha. I was very careful to check with her and say, Katha, and she said yes, so I said Katha. Okay, I want to introduce you to Lee Purcell. Hi, Lee. Lee is very important to our seniors committee, although she's not the typical senior. She's working, and she may leave here a little earlier because she has to drive to San Diego because of a film she's starring in is having a film festival. So, yay for you. Oh, this is the most dynamic actress. I've never met her before today, but we all know the name Maria Conchita Alonso. And she's a tough cracker. She's been around and is not shy about making her opinion known.
She is not shy.
Okay, I put this in the much better hands of Denise Carlson, our moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this intro. It's in better hands, and it's other hands. Well, we have a lot to cover. I've been asked to give you a few statistics before we start, just a couple. 30% of United States moviegoers are 50 or older. Women are 52% of moviegoers and 50% of ticket buyers. And the median viewer age of top 10 television shows ranges from the late 40s to the late 50s. People who are age 65 plus watch an average of 50 hours of television a week. That's according to Nielsen. So seniors are certainly consuming media. So I guess it would be nice to have them represented in media. That would be kind of great. There's been a lot of talk about women and seniors, both ageism in Hollywood, in front of the camera and behind the camera. I think we have a great panel here to be able to speak to that. And I think I would love to start this off by asking Marcia, because Marcia has had a very long career as a casting director, and now she is producing. But you were a casting director for big studios. You've seen a lot of evolution, hopefully, in this. Have you seen much change in the inclusion of people who are older, or have you had pushback on things like that? What have the discussions been like?
Well, let me start by saying I'm 64, so I've been, and these wonderful actresses on this panel, I've all known them over, many generations, so it's nice to see you all. And once upon a time, I was the youngest person in the room, and then I became the oldest person in the room. And that has been very interesting to experience, particularly as a casting director. I think television is in many ways different than the studio level of feature films, because at the studio, and I'm not talking about independent film in some ways, but the problem that you have with film at the studio level is that it's designed to reach the greatest amount of people in the widest part of the world, particularly internationally. I mean, most studio features don't succeed unless they have a big box office internationally, not just domestically. So many decisions there are made based on that. So that's where a lot of that is coming from. I think television has evolved more. One of the things I found, because I was at Disney for 16 years, was, and I think this is really true just at every studio and every network, is that we all have these the diversity departments, and because there's been a recognition that there is an issue with representation. What I don't think has happened is that people over the age of, 40, 50, 60 are not considered diverse, but actually we are. I mean, that's the truth of it. We should be included. And the thing that I often said in these meetings, and I think it's true, because I do really believe that older people are just as diverse as any other group that's considered diverse, is that casting directors as a group have always recognized talent. I mean, that's our job, to like talent, to see talent, to recognize talent, and want to do something about it. And so traditionally, we have been the people to put in front of the producers and directors, people that we think that are really good, colorblind, age-blind, depending on what the script really requires. But what I often would say, and it counts here too, is that it's a really issue with writing. Because what I have found, and that's what I always said, you have to talk to the writers. You have to develop it in writing. Because when you have the doctor, people tend to just relate from their own experience. And everybody's really young. They're not comfortable with, young or, one particular group of person. That's what they relate to. So they don't just want, it's like they relate to what they relate to. So they want the best doctor. So you have to sometimes in writing say, the doctor of the certain age, this role is a woman, this role is Latinx, this role is gay, LGBTQ. Because then it's really defined right away in the casting process for people. And then when you bring the people in to show the director, they're looking at a real group of people that, I'm going to pick the best senior, the best Latinx for this role, not the person I best relate to, that I'm most comfortable with, even though I unconsciously don't actually know that. So, so I really feel like there's limits to what casting directors can do. I mean, by the end of my time at Disney, one of the things I did start doing, and I'll finish with this, is going through the scripts when I got them and sort of saying, this has to be this has to be that. We have to change some of these roles, some of the smaller roles. I didn't always have as much power over the lead roles. And then I would go back and say, this is what has to be done. In these roles, we have to decide that it's not going to be, the young white person. It's going to be something else. And, casting directors need the support of their directors and their producers, and especially in the writing.
I think that's an excellent point. Very good.
you mind if just, as a writer, just to speak to what on the other
Oh,
side?
please.
All I just wanted to jump in is, in talking to, again, in the television movie space, these are more, not in the episodic space, but there's so many times when I've, as an independent writer, producer, going what you're looking for, so there's this, which I think is not true, this belief, old people will watch young people won't watch old people. So you're going in and pitching a story, and they're like, well, no, it's too old for us. So, I mean, because then we can't, again, in the smaller parts, it's one thing, but if you're looking, I assume what everybody here wants to be in more of the principal roles, not, the filling it in. And that's what it was so frustrating to go up against that, and hearing it at many panels, it's like this belief, oh, well, the advertisers, older people don't change their buying decisions, so therefore you have to make sure younger people, because we can influence them. I think it's changing, but I'm saying as us as screenwriters trying to write stories that'll sell, we're up against that pushback in that space. Like, again, to making independent films and films that you could sell to the ticket buying audience, it's different, but, that's been a tough thing. And these were some of, I know this is going public, I was in a digital thing with the Hallmark people, and they were going for what they called the older demographic, and I'm like, they were telling me, well, we want stories for 30s and 40 years olds, and I'm like, wait, you guys too? So I'm just saying I think it's changing, but that's what makes it hard. I think lots of times for writers that are trying to work, you have to push through that as well to get to that.
That's right, which is why I think it's really critical that the studios and the networks have to have committees. I mean, it's unfortunate that there have to be whole divisions now at these studios and networks that address this, because otherwise it isn't there. And I just want to just add one thing to that, which I find interesting, which is that you often have people making decisions who actually, this is just my own personal opinion, which is that other people think they know what everyone else is going to like or what's going to sell. And then when something sells that's not like that, and there have been a number of films that are like that, and it's, somehow it's some sort of an anomaly, as opposed to taking chances with certain sorts of things and realizing that if you put something in front of people that are good, no one is sitting there saying, well, I can't watch that. I'm really enjoying this. I didn't realize that the person who's playing this role is over 60. I mean, you just don't, when you're finally seeing it.
It's perpetuating this false myth, and it's nice that
that's right.
There are these diversity committees, because even, I think it was like when Bad Moms came out, they're like, well, no, that's not the rule, that's the exception. So even when you prove it, so it's really what we're doing here today, and to a lot of these movements is we have to change these, untruths.
Well, that is definitely true. And I mean, look, there are shows now on the air like, Grace and Frankie, which was a groundbreaking show in that, two older female leads, older male supporting leads. And, that was not a show I think that could have happened 20 years ago. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like it could have to me. Rachel, I wanted to talk to you because you direct for network television. And I know the shows that you direct on, you've got Blue Bloods that you do, which has an older male lead, but still he's older. Rookie, which is, he's not old, but he is middle-aged male lead. Do you get pushback on those shows if you ever try to cast, or do you get guidance?
Yeah, in fact, I was going to jump in and respond to what Marcia was saying. In the episodic television piece, in network dramas right now, it has become a very enlightened place in terms of casting. And I've been very pleased to see in the last couple of years that I am no longer the only person saying we need to diversify the cast here. And everyone is wide open when I say, why is the judge a man, or why is the doctor young, or everyone is open to all of these things. So it's a very, very different situation right now than it used to be. I've been directing in episodic television network shows for 30 years. It was not always this way. So yeah, I think in that realm they're in very good shape and they're quite enlightened. In fact, to such a point where sometimes we get too politically correct. I was just recently casting something, and there was a character who was described as the maid. And first of all, I said, could we call her the housekeeper? I just don't like that word. So they changed it, and it was clearly the way the dialogue was written. She was clearly someone who was a Latina who spoke Spanish first, and all the actors that were coming to me were white. And so I wrote in an email that went to like 15 people, casting down, including network executives, this seems to be a really great opportunity to get a brown-skinned person with a Spanish accent. And I got a call from the president of the network that I had, in being so specific, I had actually they perceived that what I was doing was the opposite of what I was trying to do.
That it was
Yeah.
discriminatory.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because,
please.
I was talking with Lee in the bathroom. When someone says, a color, it should not be pointed at a Latino. Latinos are of all colors. Latinos depends where your grandparents come from.
Sure.
Latinos are dark, black, brown, yellow, white,
Sure.
blue eyes, green eyes, blonde, red hair, brunettes. So it really upsets me when even a Latino says, "Oh, he's a white," and I'm like, "Excuse me." I mean, no, we are not a color.
Yeah.
It's just, and we're all different. There are Mexicans, there are Colombians, there are
Yeah.
Venezuelans, Cubans. We are so,
Diverse.
so different, all
Yeah,
of us.
yeah.
And the stereotype that we have had forever is really, it really pisses me off,
Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right, and
Pisses me
your
off
point is
too.
well taken.
Yeah.
And I wish me off too.
I wish it had been a learning lesson for someone to have said specifically that to me, in that, again, the dialogue was written, so she obviously was a Spanish-speaking person.
Yes.
So
Where
I should-
from? You
so
see,
I-
because that's the other thing. Spanish is very different from region to region.
And I should not have said a brown-skinned woman. Okay, I
No, you
stand
can.
corrected.
Yes, you can.
I
There's
stand
nothing
corrected.
wrong
But
with
we're
they
also
were sending
brown.
me Anglo people. They were just sending me American white people.
Anglos,
and
yeah.
that was like, why? And it was a really good role. Here's a wonderful role for a person of a different heritage to have. Why are you sending me white women? I don't understand that. Anyway, I'm just pointing out my own ignorance and how I had actually stepped over the line, because I think the networks and the studios are trying to be good about it, and it was actually me who made
They
the
don't
mistake.
know.
So.
They don't know. I have friends that are very blonde, extremely white. I mean, you can see their veins, and they are Hispanic.
Yeah.
And they can't work
And they
because,
can't
yeah.
work
Yeah.
because I don't see them as Latinos.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's like, what? So I really think that should be changed.
Yeah.
Like the name of seniors also.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Yvonne, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, because I love having you on this panel, because Jane the Virgin, you played the grandmother, but you were not just the grandmother who was like making soup for the kids and being there, doling out sage advice and then just kind of fading into the background. You had a life. You had a romance. You had a sex life,
Yes,
which
yes.
was great. I thought that
Vibrators
was
and
so
everything.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I would love for you to talk about how that came about, because it was such a
You know,
great role.
I do credit Jenny Snyder-Ehrman, who was the showrunner of the show, because she created. It was originally a Venezuelan novela, Juana la Virgen, but it took place in Venezuela. So the grandmother was very bitter because the daughter had gotten pregnant too early, blah blah blah. But nobody was an immigrant, so she added that. She made it a North American story. And that's what I liked about it, that it spoke to the reality of the country as it is right now, and the country that we're inhabiting. The first day of shoot, I saw Gina Rodriguez and Andrea Navedo do an incredible scene in the porch. And we later call it the Porch of Tears, because she started to cry in the scene and whatnot, and it was so beautiful. And then I have to come in with a sandwich. Poor director. The director says, "Where's your sandwich?" She was a German director.
Oh,
So-
gosh.
and I say, "I'm not taking the sandwich in. I'm not coming into the scene with a sandwich." And she said, "But it's written." And I said, "It's written, but I am not going to justify my presence in my own house in this teleplay coming with a sandwich, because that's the stereotype that we've always been fed, that the abuela has to be the one who feeds you. Why? My mother never cooked for me ever in my life. Why didn't she cook? Because my mother was a single woman who was raising 2 girls. So we hired people who would do the housekeeping,
Yeah.
and not because we were rich.
No, but that's very normal
But
for
that's
us.
the normality
Yeah.
for us, you see.
we-
But it doesn't seem that. But Jenny took that in. And I said, "I'm not bringing the sandwich. I'm not justifying my presence. I'm not wearing an apron. I'm not going to cook. I'm not going to cook. No, and I'm not going to say mija either.
Yes. Yeah, that's another thing.
Because
That's
I'm Puerto Rican, you know, and
yeah, Mexicans say mija.
No,
You know, it's like
And I was playing a Venezuelan, and you're Venezuelan.
We don't say
We're
mija
Cuban.
at all.
Exactly.
You know,
When we
we
say mija, it's despective. It's like,
we say mi niña, mi
How are
niña. You know,
So-
it's like I went for a part the other day that was a Mexican, and the script says, I mean, you know, the casting said, really a Mexican accent. So I just got it from one day to the other, right? And I'm like, I tell my manager, say, I mean, I can do accents, but I need to work. I mean, I did Moscow in the Hudson, my first movie. I played an Italian. So yes, I can do it, but not from one day to the other. And she's like, well, and I love her. She's great. And she's like, well, is there any difference?
Oh, yes.
Yes, yes.
There is a
yes.
difference, like
There's a
even the difference of accents here in the States between Appalachians and the Texans is Southern, but it's not the same Southern accent.
Absolutely.
There's even you know, with actors, you know, there's even a difference between an East Texan and a West Texan.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not one accent fits all. Can I just add one thing about what you're saying? It's so interesting because, you know, obviously your showrunner was not, you know, Latinx,
She
but
was,
she's,
she was
and yet-
a Jewish woman who
but-
was very open
but
to
the
this.
point is that she was really open, and that really goes back to this thing about, you know, creators who are not, you know, of our generation or whatever our personal diversity is, and then not understanding the culture, you know, and therefore not being not then being representational.
Yeah, and she took my personality, because I'm out there. I'm not really, never near my character. I'm not even a real grandmother in life. I'm just an actor who plays a grandmother. And when I tell the fans, they are very disappointed. I hate to burst their bubble, but it is the truth. Just an actor. And she took that in, and she saw that I was a little bit like ahead, and I'm 72. I'm gonna be 72 in November the 4th. So I'm an older person. Not senior yet. Experienced. So I wanted to show her that, you know, we're still vibrant, we're still sexual, we're still who we are, and that we can integrate our personalities into, and she was intelligent enough to go like, yes, I'm gonna take that.
Great.
And then she went to town with it.
It was wonderful. I mean, that was like one of the most, it just really made an impression on me because it doesn't seem like it usually happens that way, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
thank God.
Lee, I was wondering, you have done a lot of film and films and television
Right.
during your career, and I'm just wondering, have you seen an evolution in attitudes towards the aging actor?
Well, that's a very big question.
It is.
Let me start with, you know, as Jackie said, I am on the seniors committee at SAG-AFTRA, both national and local, and I'm also a board member, and I'm also on 6 other committees. So
you're busy.
I'm busy, and I'm still working. And the reason that I decided, because I was never in union service before, and that was kind of for other people, and I got really frustrated. And this will answer your question eventually, I promise. But I got really, really frustrated, and I thought, well, I'm going to run, and if I win, my focus and what I ran on was my frustration with being a woman in the business and being a senior in the business. And I too hate the name senior, but we are going to be changing that.
Anybody has any examples of what?
A better word for it?
later.
Later, yeah.
Submit a list to me, because we are going to be changing some of that. But that was one of the
I think
reasons that
classic is a good one.
Cla-
There's like there's classic rock, which
classic
is kind of old
Hollywood.
music.
We can talk about it later. But so I did run, and I did win, and I also just ran again and won again. And my focus has been the whole time in service, which is what we call it, in service, and to focus on women and seniors. And it is really hard. It's really, really hard because, sure, you can say there's been change, and maybe there has been, but it's really in increments, and
Tiny increments.
tiny increments. And I am lucky because I do still work, but I certainly don't work to the extent that I used to when I had too much work. But I am lucky that I still work, but it's because I fight for it. I'm not given it. And also it's very important, I think, as older people, older performers, older creatives, to create your own content. I think that's really important. And I think it's really important because we have, if any of you want, this is my pitch, if any of you would like to come to our events, we have really, really great events, right, Jackie? And both for national seniors and local seniors, and national women's, which I'm also on, and local women's, which I'm not on. And we have great events because one of the things we realized is that's very hard as an older actor, because the business is so rapidly changing almost daily, that with the digital world, streaming everything, with self-taping everything, and it can be very difficult for a person who didn't grow up with that to have to suddenly learn that. But it can be done. I did it, and lots of people I know have done it, but so what we do is we put on seminars for mature actors, experienced actors, classic actors, about create your own content and how to really utilize social media and all the things that were never around when we were just starting out. And I mean, when I was starting out, a fax machine was a big deal. And, you didn't have to drive across town anymore to pick up your sides. They could be faxed. And that was impressive. And of course now, I really do think it's so much easier now. There's so much more content. There's 500 plus scripted shows. And you do have all the electronic conveniences. I mean, there your sides are on your phone within a millisecond. And I think it's easier. But you have to learn how to utilize this and how to take advantage of all this brave new world, because it is quite fabulous. But coming back to your question, there has not been enough change and I'm looking at this because another thing that we just passed a resolution on, because we just had our national convention last weekend, was to make sure that seniors, mature actors, whatever you want to call us, are in the protected groups. And we are actually legally in the protected classes, but it's pretty much ignored.
Yeah.
So
Not
we're
very much
trying to
ignored.
get it more inclusive. I mean, so I look at it as, you can't just be polite. You have to actually be activists. And just like racism has been changed, still more to do, but it has been changed by activism, then let's change ageism also by activism, because you can't just sit back and wait, because you'll be dead. So, so you had to really be aggressive in a nice way, of course, because we're nice at this age. And
Why do we have to be that nice?
well, you do have to, because otherwise it's just not a nice world, I don't think. If you can't be rude, but you do have to be aggressive, and you do have to.
Or assertive.
Assertive is a good one.
Powerful.
I like assertive better, and
Have
you
a
do
voice.
Have a voice. That's good
powerful.
too.
Speak your
You
truth.
have to fight.
Speak
You
out.
have to fight for the roles, and you have to fight to be included. So I do encourage everybody, if you want to come join us at the union, to join this fight. Everybody is welcome, and you do not have to be 55, 65, because this starts happening very early.
Late
This starts
30s.
happening 35, 40.
For
Yeah.
actors, yeah.
Yeah, for actors,
And for
particularly
writers, it's
women.
40 maybe.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny because when I
Oh,
came
so
here
young.
in 1990, that's when I moved to LA,
Mm-hmm.
I was 43.
Wow.
Are you old?
Uh-huh.
Old.
And I booked a series regular immediately in a pilot
Yeah.
as a mother, because
Uh,
of course,
of
I'm gonna be
course.
the mother.
Yeah.
Always a mother
Of
or
course,
grandmother.
yeah. So, but I didn't see it. I didn't see myself as older. That's what played into my reality. That I didn't know the reality of Hollywood.
Right.
I came to study to Hollywood when I was 27 for the first time in my life. So I moved out of Puerto Rico so without knowing anybody, to go into, and everybody's like, you're a little old. And I'm like, no, I'm a quarter of a century old. That's nothing. So
You got your
it's
little
all
old at
relative.
27. That's great.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was back in 1990.
Yeah.
You could still get away with, you're 43 and you could still play the psychiatrist, the lawyer, or the doctor, and after a certain age, mothers and grandmothers. But
Right.
That's it.
But I just
That's it.
want to speak to that language.
Yes,
what we
please.
were talking before.
Because by the way, you do know that in the original Manchurian Candidate, Angela Lansbury was playing who's it, Lawrence Harvey's
was a
mother,
year
and
older
she
than
was
him.
3 years older than he was. I mean, that's insane.
Right,
But
but
she
Frank
was his mom.
Sinatra's
But
mother.
all I just want to say, because I've been writing movies and telling stories about mothers, and they're always complex characters. I don't, like, again, when we were talking about language, I don't think to what you're talking about, your current role, like, there's nothing wrong with being cast as a mother or a grandmother, because many of us, that's a role that many women do play, if they're a complex, dynamic, interesting character.
It's just that I don't see
with
the
an-
Anglo actors of my age playing those mothers only. You know what I mean? There's a Queen
I
of
do
Russia. There's Judi
Oh, no,
Dench
no, all
playing
I'm just saying is, if
spies.
it's a complex role,
Sure.
it doesn't matter. It's when you're
not a
relegated
spy.
to just the mother.
If you're one-dimensional.
One-dimensional,
Yeah,
it's
and that's
having-
all you are is a
Yeah.
mother, because there's no woman on this earth who is a mother who is only just
Right.
a mother. And ditto for
But they are written that way
grandmothers.
so
well,
many
that was
times.
my point, was just,
Only
it
as
goes
a mother.
into when you're, and as a writer writing to that demographic, and how I've been able to, on very small budgets, cast really, recognizable actors, because I'm creating characters that are mothers that have full lives and stories and complexity and angst and those.
Three-dimensional.
Yeah, because like that's as as interesting if it's written as a fully fledged out role.
Yeah, then people will do it.
Yeah.
And again, there has not been enough change, and really all of you here can help create that change for yourselves and for the industry as a whole. Because if we're not going to do it, who's going to do it? So
And
it's
I have
up
another
to us.
perspective I want to talk
I
about.
think, yeah.
I don't know if, I have
Sherry
another.
is our legal eagle here today.
So I'm a lawyer. I was also an executive producer of a movie and have been on television, reality television shows. And I keep dropping everything, and my microphone's blowing up in front of me. The one lawyer, the microphone's like flying over, right? Don't worry. And one of the things I think that we need to talk about is not just the changes for writers and directors. We need systemic change. We need legal change. We need to make sure that we have heads of studios that are diverse, that women in power and women of color and women of all ages. It's not enough to lay it on writers, directors, and actors.
No.
It has to be supported by the legal community and the political community. And I have devoted my life, I do sexual harassment, sexual assault, child sexual abuse cases, and a lot of the cases are Hollywood actors. And we just got passed in California, thanks to Myra Sorvino, a no ban on rehiring. So if you're a woman actor and you're sexually harassed at the workplace, or you work at a studio, or you're a casting director, and you claim sexual harassment, they can no longer put or ban you in the settlement from being rehired. Because the reason we don't come forward as women for sexual harassment, sexual assault, sex discrimination, age discrimination, race discrimination, is we don't want to torpedo our careers.
Political discrimination.
Yeah, political discrimination as
Everything,
well.
political discrimination, absolutely. You know, whether you're of a particular party or your particular vote or your Facebook page. So I think that the answer is, of course, writers, directors, showrunners, agents, script people, but it's also larger than that. Because, for example, we just got passed you cannot be banned from being rehired in a settlement agreement for sexual harassment, sexual assault. The studio can't add, we no longer rehire you. That was just passed by Governor Newsom, Mira Sorvino, and a lot of actors who are very influential in it. Takes effect January the 1st.
Which is
Right?
fantastic news.
And that's what needs to start happening. We got to get rid of these NDAs that have, if you sue for sexual assault or sexual harassment, you have to sign an NDA in order to settle with whoever's done it. They get to go back to work in their position, and you get to shut up the rest of your life.
But
You
Sherry,
cannot tell your story with an NDA. That is also being legislated to not have NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, for sexual assault, sexual harassment, and discrimination.
Sherry, so what is the law with regards to ageism?
Okay, this is really interesting. I researched this last night because I couldn't believe that it's still not much better than when I got out of law school. So, for example, a major case, and we were talking about this, I think, Rebecca, you and Rebecca, right? We were talking about this. So, on your movie biography, it's called
IMDb.
IMDA, right? IMDb. They have your age. So every single person looking to cast you or hire you is going to look up your age.
Yes.
All right, so California passed legislation that said they needed to take your age off of that.
Still have
Jerry Brown. Of course, it was sent to the district court, who ruled against actors, saying that it was a violation of the First Amendment, that they had to be able to disclose, because if this agency couldn't disclose, then no one would be able to disclose your age. I'm all up for that, but that's not what they really wanted to do. So the case is on appeal, but the judge says, I don't think this is about ageism, it's about objectification of women. Well, what do you think ageism is?
Well, it's
Let me just
certainly
speak
We
to
don't
this.
objectify women as sexual and interesting and smart and capable if they're older than 35 years old in the movie industry. So you've got judges who don't get it. So we're working on some of those ends, because I think these actors, writers, directors need legal support. Like, the real law on this says Title VII, you can't discriminate based on age. Oh, really?
Well, that
Is that
is the
true?
question. How do you
Hollywood-
how do you prove that was the basis? That's always the problem. Lee, you have some.
Yeah, I would like to speak to what you just brought up. Thank you for bringing that up, because it was, again, SAG-AFTRA that brought this lawsuit.
Yes, thank
And
God.
it was our attorneys. We have really fantastic attorneys. And like Sherry was saying, we took this all the way, and we got the law passed in the state of California, because there's other problems that are inherent with having your age posted. Yes, it is age discrimination, and it has really hurt a lot of us, particularly those of us who actually play younger or older.
I have
than
one,
we actually.
and my age isn't even right.
Right. No, I understand, and they don't care if it's
They
right
don't
or
care.
no. They do not care. But here is just a bit more on that topic, because this is all because of the union that has done, the
Fabulous work.
and paid the
Fabulous.
money. And so we actually lobbied in Sacramento, Gabrielle Carteris and who's our president and got reelected recently, lobbied and got this law, an actual law, passed. And Jerry Brown signed off on the law. We were just all so excited. And then, I don't know if you know this, but IMDb is owned by Amazon. Amazon has the deepest pockets in the
On the
universe,
planet.
owned by the wealthiest man on the planet.
Yeah.
So basically what they said was, go pound sand, we're not going to follow the law. We don't have to, because we're Amazon. And We've all bought from Amazon. I constantly buy from, I mean, I
But
want to
here's what-
boycott them, but let me,
Here's what I don't like.
let me just
The
finish this.
judge.
Let
I
me
know
just
you're
finish
appealing
this.
it, but the judge.
Let me just finish this. So, sorry, but, because this is something I really am incensed about. So, they refused to actually follow a law that the then governor signed our bill and passed. And so we are now in a morass of appeals, and I can't tell you where we are in this process right now because it's a legal situation, but we have been appealing, and we have been working our way through, and hopefully someday it will actually, the actual law that was passed will be enforced. But so there's an existing law that is not being enforced. And in the meantime, everybody's age, I'm so sick of it, people coming up and they're going, oh my God, you're that age? And it's like, oh, gee, I bet you looked on IMDb, didn't you?
Right.
And they're like, sure.
Exactly.
Because they think that people
Exactly.
outside the business actually think that we put those ages there. They actually think that we went, oh yeah, let me put my age there because that's a really good idea, and then more people will hire me. So,
Lee,
I think Jackie wants to speak to this.
I
too.
do. First of all,
Yeah, because we are.
I think
I brought
everybody
a fiery
is very
topic.
happy about what's going on. But speaking of the aged people, and how to get them to be thought of as interesting people, not just old people.
And not invisible people.
Yes.
Might we plant a seed somehow? Would there be some kind of allowance in this great world of entertainment? Say there's an outdoor scene and people are talking to each other and a neighbor is strolling by and just a throwaway line maybe to that person saying, oh, how was the triathlon? This old person is going by. Oh, it was great, I came in third. And then just go on with your real story. But start the idea that there's interesting people around the block that may even lead to another script about that guy who not only does the triathlon, but he saves monkeys in the rainforest. It's like there's people who do things that would just surprise the heck out of anyone who's a senior. Yeah.
I want to say this to respond to a couple things here, which is that there is the political, and most change in this country has ultimately only come through the courts on this level. So there's that track. But I think Lee talked about something that I think is really important for everybody in this room, and that is actually becoming technologically capable. I really sincerely mean it. I started casting in 1979. There was no breakdown. There was no, breakdown did not exist. I mean, the pictures came, you didn't have to look at tapes from people from all over the world. I mean, actors came in and they auditioned, and there was a director in the room to direct the actor. Okay, that's all over. That doesn't happen anymore.
All gone.
Okay? I have worked many times with no director, and I send tapes. I've had older actors in my office. It's very awkward for them. They've never, come in and had to, audition with the kind of resumes they've had. And then suddenly be auditioning for some casting assistant who's never seen anything they've done, which is very anxiety-provoking for actors. In front of a camera where somebody's looking down at a piece of paper and they don't know what's going to happen to it. So, two things about that. One, if you get a chance to audition, just audition. Get in front of people. Any chance you can get. I don't care what it is. But Lee makes it, you need to learn to be technologically capable. You need to be able to find those breakdowns online or have your agents tell you about it or hear it from a friend and put yourself on tape and get that tape to the casting directors. You have to do it yourself. The first thing people aren't looking at, by the way, is what's the age of this person? They're just looking at the tape, and they're reacting to your tape. Later on, there's going to be issues with directors and stuff because, unfortunately, you can change all the laws, but enforcing them is very different when you're a casting director in a room with people and someone starts to ask you about how old somebody is. Do you think she looks too old or he looks too old? I mean, people do ask you this in casting. They ask you a lot of questions in casting sessions about actors, and you can, as a casting director, when you believe in someone, you advocate for them. You try to say, well, they can play that. Look at the tape. So she's very right about this. I mean, and I would say this to younger actors who can't get their careers going. You have to be an advocate for yourself. It's a very different business. It's a much bigger business, an international business is when you're casting, and I was doing a show for CBS a few years ago, and it was the Rob Schneider show. It was all and I mean, I looked all over the world. I mean, I would audition people in my office, and at night I looked at tapes from Spain, from South America, from Mexico, from Florida, any place where Latinx people, Spanish-speaking people live. I had to watch all of those tapes. So casting directors have to do that. But you have to get yourself into that system. You have to get yourself seen. And at this stage of things, this is how you're going to get yourself seen. And doing a good audition in which you are compelling and people are watching you gets people to be interested in you. And that's how that's how it starts to open the door.
Yes, definitely.
Rachel, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, something we haven't really talked about yet, and is sales representatives and how in the feature film industry, this doesn't apply to television as much, but in the feature film industry, we've become a global industry. How films are sold in the United States no longer drives financing. It's the international global market, which makes it very, very difficult, which is why you don't see a lot of the movies that you want to see in movie theaters. But sales representatives who determine what a film might or might not make in countries all over the world really are prejudiced against older women.
Yes.
And unless you're one of the sort of 25 top superstars who are younger than 40, it's very difficult to get a feature film financed from the filmmaker perspective unless you have one of these actors. So as an activist, it's been very difficult to sort of play both sides, to keep advocating for older actors, even older actors who are movie stars, who are Academy Award-winning movie stars, but just might not be, younger than 50.
But I think it's mostly here because I watch Spanish from Spain films and TV, and older actors are always higher.
Yeah, but are they?
That's different.
But
Yes.
are they globally? Are they distributed globally on a large level?
Well, whenever I go back to Puerto Rico, I watch it because it's international television, international movie making. And the stories are so different and so out there.
Sure.
And we go like, why can't we?
Well, and that's why we can also do this in independent filmmaking, as Marsha was saying before. If you have an American independent film and you're making it for under, $7 million, you can do whatever you want. Hopefully, if you can get.
If you can.
Yeah. But a bigger feature film really becomes very difficult.
What Rachel is saying is that if you're trying to make a film and you're trying to raise money and you have a sales agent, they're going from country to country getting how much can we get, from video and television. And what Yvonne is saying, having just come back from Japan, we have a cultural problem here.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very American problem. Okay, it really is. I mean, I've been listening to everybody. You're talking about the legal aspects. 55, 65, 67, 67. This age of being a senior is set by the United States government for benefits. It has no bearing on the reality about any of us feel about ourselves and our age. Okay? That's a legal definition, and it's very American. Ageism is a bigger problem. We don't revere the wisdom and the interestingness of older people in this country. It is an American problem.
Absolutely, I think that's absolutely correct. And I know you're trying to, put together your film. Rachel is making a movie about Lily Ledbetter right
Lily
now.
Ledbetter, the fair pay activist who
Yes,
president
Lily
elect.
Ledbetter.
So I've been shepherding this film for nearly 8 years now, and it's really all been about casting. It's all been about casting, trying to get, and then, so the other complication is because I'm not a celebrity director. I'm well known in television, but I'm not known in the feature film industry at all. They call me a first-time director. Between, me being a first-time director, having a script that has a female protagonist about feminism, about a woman who's 50 plus, becomes a very difficult equation, unless I get Meryl Streep to star in it, So there's like one actor that can get the movie.
So I guess you have to get Meryl Streep.
I've gotten
Marsha,
her.
can you help her?
She does. Rachel and I have actually known each other for,
Since we're in our 20s.
Honestly, for over 40 years. So I've been privy to her career. And I just want to say, I've seen her, and she's at this age, she's doing the best, most incredible work of her life, and she's directing constantly, but she can share with you, which I think she should, about the years in the desert that she and many female directors have gone through, but Rachel is an incredible example of personal advocacy. If you don't know her, you look her up because she's out there. She's been letters to the New York Times, the LA Times on a national level, really representing the plight of female American directors. And where she is right now is a direct result of the advocacy she's done for other women and also for herself.
Thank you, Marcia. That's very sweet. Yeah, Marcia and I met on the opening day of Aliens, the first one in movie theater. Thank you. And I think we've all been speaking about activism. And what does activism come from? But anger. You know, why do we become activists?
That's right.
Because we're shut out.
Right.
Right? And
That's right.
that's where all civil rights comes out of.
That's right.
So, I started speaking about women behind the camera 30-something years ago when we were told not to talk about these things, and still at the Directors Guild of America, we're still told
We're
to
still
not talk
being
about
told
these
not to
things.
talk about it.
So thank you, my darling. Thank you.
Another woman who has been behind the camera is Keitha. Keitha Gentis. Can you talk a little bit about the other F word and what that did or didn't do for
Well, I
your
mean, I could talk
career?
about the other effort, but just to all these things. One, just talking about, like, everybody, like, on, like, relevance. Like, you've got to stay relevant no matter what you do professionally, because that's on everybody. So, none of these technology things are hard, and you just have to stay on top of it. So that's on us. And also, just what I want to talk about, too, also with casting, because not only have I done women's stories, but with diverse casts, and even in the under $1 million, everything is still raising. It's still, if you're raising a couple $100,000, it doesn't sound a lot for a film in this landscape, but I don't know how many people just here could just throw me $100,000, because I'd like it actually. It's a lot of money, and so the point is, when you do these diverse, the list is short in all diverse categories. There's only a couple of people across the board in many categories that can sell a film. So that's just a truth, that when you're telling kind of non-white male stories, what you're up against. But the thing is, what's the good and bad about the landscape we're in now is, to what we're saying is that the really studio-made films are these larger global things that the industry has really been pushed back to the individual, and there's a lot of things that are broken in distribution, that everything does come back to this sort of do-it-yourself kind of model. And when I ever do like smaller speaking engagements, I'm always like, you're to actors, to writers, to anybody, you're a producer till somebody taps you out of that job. Which means, like, it was the old days where you could just sit and wait for your agent or somebody to make something that you want to do happen, and those days are gone for everybody at every level. You hear about, name people that you know about that are doing their own hustling, because all these margins are shrunk, so agents have many more clients than they've ever had, so they're overworked. But the good news is, on a certain level, and I mean, I can get to what you asked, but I'm just gonna start with the positive a little bit. As somebody, like I had worked in the movie business, I would probably have been running a studio, but I decided to pivot and raise some children, and realized that was impossible to kind of, for me to do it all. But then I came back after, I just took a short break, wrote a script, and it was about a donor-inseminated single mom. And they're like, well, this is great. And Vanessa Williams was interested, but her agent's like, she can't open a movie, get Jennifer Aniston. And he goes, well, it's television, which meant throwing the garbage. And then I got to recommend. I got to recommend. Nobody cared about me as a writer. And I was like, well, give it to me. And I made my first film. I got a deal with Warner Brothers. I went into net profits. Ironically, I did colorblind casting, because I just was like, this is a story, this is interesting, with Vanessa Williams in it, telling about this kind of single mom, and cast around it. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, this is just a regular story that happens to have a diverse cast. And that helped weirdly sell it. And then I thought, okay, I'm back, and nobody really cared. I was like, because I told a story about a mom, and I was a mom kind of siloed in a New York suburban community and then I just realized, okay, I could feel sorry for myself, or realize I just got to keep doing it again. And it's hard, but I think it's hard for everybody now. So, like, again, maybe we have to work twice or 3 times as hard, but we just have to accept that as the truth if we want to be working, and figuring out these ways. But this whole direct to consumer is very real now, and being our own content creators is real. And to what, having been on a lot of other diversity panels that are defined by race, it's all like we have to support each other. You know, again, in the Latinx community, it may not be our story sort of in that space, but go support all those stories. Within the Asian American community, they have this, I think it's called Golden. Good. Yeah, where you, and so that's just what we have to keep doing, is in that activism, is showing up, supporting each other,
Right.
and creating, and again, to what my story on the other F word was, I wrote again, I'd done 3 films, sort of what we were saying before, like I go by my stories, and I'm like, well, I had an episodic story. It wasn't that I wanted to be an episodic, the story lent itself, and I wanted to do a story about midlife reinvention for women, that chapter of life. And I was like, oh, that story hasn't been told. I was naive to realize it's because nobody will let you tell that story. I didn't think there was this opportunity that was overlooked. So I wrote this pilot script, and I got the flathead thing going, this is a great script, but it's a tough demographic, which
Right.
was the word for, it's about old people. It's a tough demographic. And I kept scratching my head going, and I kept going down this rabbit hole going, wait, why is it tough? Then all these people are like, you know, they have all the money. They control the marketplace. You know, they're doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
But that's when I would get all the thing is, but young people won't watch old, you know. So anyway, so I made this web series that was part of this festival a couple of years ago, and how I got
And
involved.
it's fantastic, by the way.
And I did it on a shoestring budget, and the good news was, when I did it, and I did season 1 for very little money, I got an hour of content with Steve Gutenberg and Judy Gold and Michael Boatman, like recognizable people that were like, wow, you're championing our stories, we want to be part of this, we want to help you. And then at the time, Amazon, which is, they're the bad guys and the good guys, because they create this platform and YouTube where you can find ways to monetize your content if you're crafty and you're willing to do all the hard work to find your audience. But the good thing, what I learned on my first film, when you tell niche stories, they're very easy to find niche, underserved audiences. So you can connect with them, and if you're one of them, you're like, I'm telling this story, I'm this authentic voice, and you can reach them and find ways to get around the gatekeepers. What I'm just saying is the new opportunities is this SVOD thing that's happening, which is, what is SVOD actually? I forgot the answer, but it's the, yeah, so it's, you know, it's Netflix, and now Apple's getting into it, and Disney's getting into it.
on demand.
Yeah, and they're kind of, it's this cord cutting, so they're getting around, and because Netflix is spending like $14 billion to get content, now Apple wants to compete, so whether it's real or not, there is this new money coming in, which still means we have to take all the risk, but the point is there are places, if you can figure out the way, because while they're the higher up people that can sort of break through that glass ceiling, us that don't have that power to break through the glass, and that's what I learned on the other F word. I didn't have the power to break through.
Right.
It was exciting, and I found a huge audience, and I connected with women in this sort of mid-40s to mid-50s stage with this story, and I got to bloggers, and they were like, how can I help? And they spread the word, and I reached millions of people through Amazon. Like, I got their bonuses. They had this bonus pool. I kept being the top series, and then everybody's like, well, that's really great. What can you do for the millennials? But the point is, but what I want to just say, being very close to millennials in my life, and that's where I think in this sort of busting, which again, it's on the gatekeepers that are hard, they're very connected to us. I feel like I live with 20 and 30-year-olds very actively because I'm relevant to them, and they want these sort of mentors, and the way they were raised, they don't really, many of them don't see age. They see, and again, I call it the Bernie, like Sanders effect. Like,
Yeah.
young people loved him. He didn't act young.
Yeah.
He just had a message that they connect to younger people. And I think that's where we have to not discriminate against ourselves. There are people that are going to discriminate against us, but don't believe that we aren't relevant and that they don't connect with our stories and don't want our wisdom.
I think
Right,
that's
it's like
a
self-hatred.
great piece
Yeah.
of advice.
You know, you're right. It's self-hatred and our own self-image.
And
I
that's
think
why I
it's
feel
how
like
we
I
see
don't talk
ourselves.
about
Yeah.
it anymore.
And it's not always how people see us.
Yes.
Can we just, Lee has to leave us, so thank you very much for being.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
One more thing.
One more thing.
I encourage all of you who are filmmakers and writers, please make union films because we have
Yeah.
fantastic people who can help you and mentor you. We have all kinds of budget levels down to like.
And good actors.
Almost nothing, and then up, to wherever. So please make your films be union films because we will take care of you. And
that's why it's like, I've done things from 30,000 budget, to like under $1 million, and I've always used the script. The only union I've used on every film is the Screen Actors Guild. I mean, that really is where you get, I've worked with non-union people too, but everything is because there's a reason why they're there. That's really where you get many of the best actors, and it's
Sure.
important, I think, to be, for the same reasons. And you can do it on, and get great actors at a 30,000. Like I had Steve Gutenberg, and like I said, all those people, and my budget was like $30,000 or $40,000. And I was able to do it on a SAG contract and get people, actors, if you can get to them and they love your work, will work for you for a rate that makes sense.
I know, I just produced a web series, the same kind of thing. Our budget was 31,000 and we had SAG actors.
Yeah.
We did. So I've been there. We're gonna keep talking, but I'm gonna open it up if anyone has any questions, and apparently at least one person does, right? What is your?
I'm Becky, and I have just written my first screenplay this past year. Thank you. And you just said if you can get to the actors, and being new to the business, it's like, seems almost impossible to get to anyone, even if you've placed in a festival. It's like, how do you suggest doing what you just said?
I just think you have to be crafty, and I also think you have to be realistic about what you have, and because there's a reason for gatekeepers too, and actors, and again to that, even though I've worked in lower budgets, like I respect their time, and they have to pay their rent and they have to live, so it's not like all these actors are sitting around working for these low rates. It's just, it's got, you have to respect when you're in lower budgets, their time and all your people in your film. But I think that's how this business works. And if, like I said, I made my first film, and I was fortunate because I went to school with Vanessa Williams and we had a mutual friend, and it was at a time before Ugly Betty that she was in between projects, and I thought it was an interesting choice, and because she had a huge music following and not given roles like this, because you have to always be a salesperson. So if you're gonna go to actors of a certain level, why would they want to be in your film? Like, you have to give them, and that's on anybody, what do you bring to them? And they're not there to do you favors, anybody, in this business. So that's where it is. I think if you have that in a compelling story and in a way,
As long as it is a good story.
Yeah. I think you do,
doesn't
and then you
matter
find
how
a
much,
way.
A good character, you do it. You go around and you will look for ways to doing it, because you want to have quality work in your real or in your life, for your soul, for you. Otherwise, if it's just an independent movie that has nothing, that has just a little role that will not further your career, maybe you will get somebody that is really, really new, that wants to have a little bit of a take or whatever. But otherwise, the other ones that are more experienced, like, wow, we do go, it doesn't matter what the pay is, as long as the material is good, you consider it and you want to do it. That's what it is.
And also, like, I've worked with, in my second film, like, like, more unknown working actors who are, like, again, a member of the union. Like, I got the best performances, and I mean, it was great. So it just depends on what your objective is with your film, and finding like, really good actors is not hard to do. It's just if you're looking for a certain level, but if you want, within your film, it really is your business plan, what you're looking for. But to find really good working actors, there are plenty of them looking for great product.
I taught at USC in the graduate film program for a little while, and some of those students are good. And if you are going to be doing student films and you're looking to put together a reel, it's a very smart way to do it, UCLA, USC. But you're interviewing them more than they're interviewing you. Make sure you're working with people who, number one, have good material, and number two, really know how to put it together, because you're going to give them all your time and energy and your talent, and it may end up being a piece of crap. So make sure that doesn't happen to you. Yeah, it's going to happen a lot. So you really need to be vigilant about that. The other thing you can do is, many of these students, they're not writers. You know, they want to be cinematographers, they want to be directors, they want to be producers. They're not necessarily good writers. And don't be afraid to say, listen, this is a great starting point, but I have some ideas for this character, and can I please make some suggestions? That's another thing that you should feel very confident about doing. But the other thing speaks to what everyone on this panel has been saying, is about creating your own content. You can put it out there in the world so easily to find someone who has a camera, who knows how to shoot, who knows how to edit, and either pay them a couple of pennies or don't pay them anything, or let them collaborate with you and write your own script about your own great characters, and get that on a reel. So it's not that difficult to do, and I really wish you well.
Yes.
In the back, I see. Yes, you.
I'm just getting back into it because my mom died from Alzheimer's and dementia, and I got out for like 9 years. So I was on the East Coast, having trouble getting like an agent, and at one time, about 4 months ago, I was playing a 78-year-old and a 48-year-old at the same time. So when I have an agent, I go to these auditions, and they look like they could be my mom, you know, and that's great and whatever, but maybe I'm the wild card, maybe they just look at my age, because on Actors Access, it may not be public, but my agent knows. So how do you find those people that are age blind? You know, they just say, this woman looks like this, she could play this 48-year-old, not this woman looks like this, so she could play this range. You know, I mean, you pick your up.
Have you had this conversation with your agent?
I don't have an agent again. I have 2 agents over in the South. One of them asked me to come back because they now have access to the West Coast. So I went back with her a couple weeks ago just so I could have some kind of, I have a manager from New York I picked up from Actors Access, but I don't have an agent right now because I haven't been able to get one since I've been back. So
your manager's job is to get you a good agent.
yes, and I want to find somebody that can help me not be pigeonholed and just give me an opportunity to show what I can do.
You know, even though you get the good agent, the best, you are always going to be, in a way, pigeonholed because the parts are written that way, and we have to fit whatever is business. Show business is the business of the show. That's how I see it, you know, and it's very hard to accept that. I would suggest what I did in New York. I stayed 10 years in New York just doing theater, and I lived off of the theater. I didn't do anything else. I knew but you know, now things have changed also. Everything has changed. Nothing is the same, but in the 80s, I made a living doing only theater work, and I knew in advance, a year in advance, what place I would be doing, because once you get in the rut, then people call you and book you, you know. Although theater here doesn't pay, that's the only thing.
It's not so much the way to go here.
I mean, theater's hardly here.
No, it's not a great way to go here.
Not here. But for
They all look 20 years older than me. That's my question. How do I find somebody who will send me to an audition where I don't look like I'm their daughter?
You actually have to communicate that with who's ever representing you. And I just want to reassure you that the fact that you don't have an agent right now is more common than not.
Yeah.
I just know it's gotten incredibly difficult for actors to get agents. It just is. I mean, people call me all the time. You know, can you help me? Can you know, it's so difficult because I don't know, someone was saying about it's all incoming, you know, with the agents because they're overloaded, and with, you know, like, Cast It and all, Breakdown Express and all, it's just there's so many people are submitting. So but you do have some representation. You're very lucky actually, and you just have to tell them. Don't submit me for these things. Submit me for these kinds of things. But just communicate, because when you get some more work, you'll eventually get an agent. But without work, you can't get an agent. They won't do it. I mean, because they you use this word traction. You know, if you don't have it, as you're talking about the co-star thing, if you don't have any traction, which means credits of some kind, they can't get casting directors to see you, and they can't invest time in that. But you do have somebody working for you. That's all you need.
So you have to remember that they're working for you. So you have to tell them what she's saying.
It doesn't matter that they're not somebody big. I mean, I had an agent they just dumped me for 2 months ago with a guy who was a photographer.
No, because everybody uses, because everybody uses, Breakdown Express. So, I mean, the problem is everybody submits on that, So what happened, and I mean, to be honest, I mean, you get like cop number 1 or, not forget the leads, and 1,500 people get submitted. Well, you don't have, a week, you don't have like 5 months to read all those actors and see all those actors. It's hard. So, you hope that your manager has a couple relationships with a few people, just so they'll call. But you have to communicate with them. Please submit me for these kinds of things. Just keep pushing them and ask them and say, no, please don't submit me for any more 78-year-olds. I mean, I appreciate that you did, but I only want to be submitted for women, like of a certain, a cut off at this age. That's all you can do, and you'll get work, and that will lead to more work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Beth Albright, and I have a lot of really great things going on. I'm really positive, but I really do admire you all and everything we've been talking about, and I need your advice. I'm a writer and an actress. I'm SAG-AFTRA. I was on Days of Our Lives. What am I, 57 now? So back when I was 30, I was playing a 20-year-old on Days of Our Lives, and I left because I couldn't figure out how to juggle being a great mom and being there for my kids, and then also being there for myself. So we moved away, and I owned a children's theater for a while, and I let it go. I let somebody else running it, and we just moved back 2 months ago. I became a writer all the years that I was off because I had to keep doing something. I wrote a book series called The Sassy Bells, and it was optioned by a woman named Barbara Fisher, who is a producer for Lifetime.
I know Barbara Fisher.
Yeah, I've got a meeting with her next week. So I'm like super excited. Like, I've gotten a lot of really good things going in the 2 months that I've been back. I just signed with a screenwriting agent, 5x5, who's represented by Gersh. I've got 6 projects that are really heavy women-centric projects. Got the log lines and everything. But I also want to act, and so I signed back with my old manager from 30 years ago. I am 57, and I talked with the casting director, and she says, I can't cast you over age 40. You're just not there. And so now I'm like, okay, I came back because of everything that was being talked about by women. And that's what drew me back. My church is going to be SAG. My church is going to be Women in Film, which I was a member of. I am all about the older, more powerful, experienced, classic woman. And I want to be part of that group.
And what's the question?
The question is, with all these things going on, the one thing that somebody said about writing your own content, I can do that.
Yeah.
What do you do to raise money to begin? Because I have my reel is
Tomorrow.
from, when I was 30 years old, and that's what's on YouTube. And I was on Days of Our Lives playing, a snarky little shop owner. And that's what I have. If you look at me as an actor or anything else, I mean, everything's from 30 years ago. So how do I begin again, I guess, is the main question. And what's your advice as far as writing your own content and being able to be in the content that I've written, not just write
So
it
in other words, raising the money to be able to make the content.
Whatever, how you do that's the part of the business that I don't know.
Well, it sounds like you're already doing it. You've optioned a script to a great producer. You're going to meet with her next week. You may very well move forward with that web series or whatever it is. There may very well be a part in there for you. I'm sure you wrote something for yourself in there.
I wrote it so that I could play the older people in their 50s.
All right, so you're doing it.
Because I want to do that now.
You're doing it.
I'm a little chubby and I'm a little older.
Some human beings are a little chubby. That's okay. It's okay. We're diverse.
That's my time in Hollywood,
Good luck. It sounds great. It sounds like you know exactly what you're doing.
Does it?
Yes.
It does,
actually. This is the path that we are all on. You're doing it. You're doing it. One foot in front of the other. Brava.
And you will connect with people, and they will help you on your way. I mean, it's just the way it works.
I just feel so nervous that it's not really real, that I've got all these things and people are interested, but I can't really get out in
We
front.
never know. It's a fantasy-based industry.
It's all an illusion.
But the short answer to the literal answer, you get your
A
iPhone.
lot of the things I want to do.
Well, no, I'm just saying, you get your iPhone, you get somebody to hold it, you write a script, you go into iMovies, you edit it. I mean, that's the basicest way.
And so I make my own reel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And don't say, look at YouTube from 30 years ago.
Well, no, but then you put it on YouTube.
Right.
Write yourself
You get
3
followers.
scenes. Write yourself 3 scenes where you play 3 different women, right? 1 page each. Little tiny character bits. 3, okay? Put it together, make sure it's 3 minutes long. Get someone who can help you with the lighting and the shots so that it looks good. Yes, that's all you need. 3 great minutes. Write yourself 3 great characters, 3 great little scripts.
That's
it.
what I need
And
to
and that's to all of you who were just talking about what to do next.
Thank you. Thank you so much, all of you. Trailblazers.
Hi, my name is Daisy. I'm an independent filmmaker, writer, director, producer, and
There, get her to work with you.
Yeah.
Hire her.
And I want to know what attracts you to a project.
That's a good question.
That is an
Because
excellent
I
question.
write for older women. I do family-oriented and faith-based content, and I love writing for older women. And because they saved me back in the day when I was just getting into SAG and AFTRA, and so I always said I would vow to always help older
But there is a big market for faith-based projects, so.
Absolutely.
I said there's a large market for faith-based projects, so you just want to find, especially if that's your vertical, find those people, because it's definitely a thriving, niche place. So that's, I think there's always, just find again, back on IMDb, find the producers that are making them, and you just reach out to them.
But what attracts you guys? That's what I want to find out, especially casting and, why would you take on a project?
Well, there are a
Besides
lot-
being paid.
No, but there are other reasons. Besides being paid, yeah, there are other reasons. I mean, for me, as a casting director, I think it was a lot of things. I mean, sometimes it's the story that really appealed to me. I like the characters in it. I'd worked with the director, producer before, and I had a relationship, and that's something too, is to cultivate a relationship with the casting director and stick with them and appreciate them, because they're going to really help you get to the agents. Casting directors good casting directors have those relationships, and good casting directors also know what you like. And you can be in a really good dialogue with them about what you're looking for in an actor. So that's very important, that relationship. I think most people don't think about it, but it's a very unique and important relationship between producers, directors, and casting. And so a lot of casting directors take projects because they have that relationship with someone. They like working with them. That person treats them well. Casting directors will tell you that they often don't feel like they're treated well. I think a lot of people don't really understand that casting directors are often like actors. We're at the mercy of many people. How we get hired, having to audition, for people. Presenting your ideas, selling yourself to get the job. Going out for projects with other people. Then having a myriad of studio and television executives. Having to approve all your choices. Being in this horrible position where you find an actor you're really, really passionate about, but they want to name your person, and trying to convince people to take these chances. I mean, it's I do want to say this to the actors in the group. My experience as a casting director is I think a lot of actors feel very nervous when they go in to see casting directors. The casting director has all this power, and yes and no, because we have to please other people. So I always feel, it's in my best interest for you to do well, because otherwise I'm gonna have to keep looking. Exactly. I want people to like my choices, and so, and again, that's why that relationship with someone you've worked with before, that trusts you and gets you, and that you can have conversations like, this is why we should go with this person as opposed to that person, is such an important relationship for you.
Yeah, what attracts me as an actor is the story, character, if it's a challenging character, none so stereotyped.
That's, I think, key.
Then I would be attracted even if there's little money. as long as you can stretch as an actor or tell a story that is important, humanly important. Like when you do theater, that you touch people's hearts and souls and minds directly, and you can feel that I would be attracted to anything that is that quality, you know? Yeah, it's all good.
Maria, as the other actor still on the panel? Or?
And many casting directors have been like also John Levy.
Yes, John.
Uh-huh. He studied a director. He was studying to be a director in my acting school when I got here.
Yeah, John. No, a lot of casting directors were actors.
Are
I mean, Deborah Quilla, she's
Yeah,
teaching
and-
acting, but a lot of casting directors. I did not. I started in the theater. I wanted to be a stage manager of the theater. But I've always loved good acting. And one other thing I want to add, because you just said something too, because I mean, I've known you for a long time, but the casting directors, as an actor. When you get in the room with the casting director, it's more, I know everyone sort of puts a lot of pressure on themselves, either you got the part or you didn't. And actually, I would suggest that you don't think that way. I think the most important thing you can do is walk in the room and leave it in the room and give everything you have to what you're doing and walk away.
Yes.
And understand that so much of this, and I want to answer to you that too, it is not in your control. And I think the hardest thing for all of us in every profession we have is to accept the lack of control we have on outcomes. And that all that you can possibly do in this life is do the best you're capable of so that you feel good about it. Because when you do that and you do a good audition, even if you don't get that part, and you may have given the best audition, but you're just like, that's not what this one wants, or they've rewritten the part. There's so many reasons actors do and don't get parts, and it's not always because you gave the best audition or the worst audition, okay? It just isn't.
I usually break the sides after I finish because I want to give
Let
it
it go.
out.
Let it go, because what you really want to do is just bring something into the room and have the casting director like what you did. Because at the end of the day, I can assure you that the casting director likes what you do, and you know this because I've met you both along the way. Casting directors will bring you in over and over and over and over again until you get a part. Because if a casting director likes you, they do not forget you.
Yes.
And they will keep bringing you in and putting you in front of people until they find something.
Yes, that's true.
Maria, do you have anything to add?
I think, the challenge is great. I have to feel that character. Even if it's just one scene, it has to be something that blows me away. I think that we all, as human beings, have many different personalities. There's one that it's the one that controls all of our personality, but not like Sybil, but but I do believe that, and I always grab one thing from the character that I might have, because we are all good human beings, bad human beings. At times we can be, a nun. Other times we can be a whore. A little girl. An older woman, we all have that, that's what I believe. We all have that inside. So when I see a character, the craziest it is, the character, is what I like the most, because it's gonna be a challenge. And I grab that and I have to connect and make that thing, I don't know if I'm explaining myself well, but that part of that personality that I also have is the one that is going to control then that character. I don't know if I'm making myself clear. It's kind of hard to explain, and not being English my first language. But yeah, it's like I always make up things like they send me a script. Most of the time what I work in the offers I get, not the auditions. I'm horrible in auditions. I hate to audition. And so 95% of what I do is because they're offers. And I've been working, thank God, a lot. I took a long break because I became a political activist to save Venezuela. Big mistake. I put my career aside. I put my personal life aside. I thought that I could help Venezuela not to become what it is right now. It's a very touchy subject for me. But anyway, I regret that I abandoned my life and my career, but I don't regret that I tried to do all I could to save Venezuela from what it's going through right now. But anyway,
Su final.
yeah, no, yeah.
Todo tiene su final.
I just anyway. So
Everything
yeah,
has
so
an
I
ending, I'm
love
telling her.
I would love to like they give me a character and it's just like a nun. I played a nun once. Those who know me is like what? Okay. So it was just a simple character, and I tell the director, can the nun, have like a tick in one eye, and because she had an accident, and he's like, okay, so here's a nun that it was just a nun, but now everybody's paying attention to the nun because she's like. Like that. So I do try to add things to I did this role and she was the maid, which I do not have an issue at all to play a maid. Like I would like to play a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, because there are maids, there are doctors and lawyers in the Latino world. Okay, so and what I did was an amazing cast. Everybody was like an ensemble piece where everybody was great character. And me as a maid, I told the director, say, can she limp? And I always add these things. And the director was like, okay. So here she is, the maids, and everybody just had to look at me because the maid is limping, And so I love that. I just so that there's never a small character. You just have to try. It's just have to create a little bit and ask the director and work with the director on it. And I do all these things.
I gotta remember that in a trial.
Yeah, it's true. But I would love to like do things like a character like that. I always choose to do the last thing I'm gonna do. I did a movie called Material Girls with Hilary and Haley Duff, and she was the woman that took care of the house, not the maid. She's the one that took care of the maid, of the gardener, and I'm like, well, okay, I wouldn't even look someone like like me wouldn't be doing that in real life, so. Can I have like big hips and a big butt and huge boobs? Hilary and Haley were like, because you always want to be very skinny, right? And they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah. I want to do that. And my agent was like, I don't think so. This is a studio movie. They're all going to think that you are like that. It's not like Winnie Paltrow play big, and you're not going to have like a big marketing saying, that's not really you. And I'm like, I don't care. So I made her big, huge boobs, big, hips and butt, and obviously then you act differently, you walk differently, and I loved it and people were like, the truth. Oh my God, look at her, look how she looks now. They all thought that I looked like that. I don't care, So that's what I have to feel it, and then I have to make something out of that to attract the attention that if the part is not like, wow, So just give me one scene that I can make up.
So now you're going to get a limping, wigging,
I just wanted to say that I know that everybody wants guest starring roles and lead roles, but I was fortunate enough to attend the session that the CSA and the diversity committees, what is the committee?
Yes, it's a
They
committee.
sponsored it in April. I mean, what was it, August, Jackie?
Yeah.
And I was signed with a commercial agent from that seminar, from that session.
Oh, that's
So
great.
all work is good work if you're happy doing what you're doing. So I'm gonna be the commercial queen and make money and do my project.
That's excellent.
SAG has, can I just say that, SAG, if you're members of SAG-AFTRA, they have things constantly. I mean, I've been there any number of times as a casting director to, meet actors and see, and I think they have probably agents and managers, all kinds of people go. So there are programs like that can actually put you in front of people that you might not have a chance to get in front of, and you should take advantage of that.
Yeah, SAG-AFTRA is doing, our next town hall is for Native Americans.
Oh.
So it's a town hall about Native American and Indigenous actors, and we're live streaming it on Monday and Tuesday. So just just go to CSA Facebook, inclusion and diversity. CSA is doing magnificent work right now. So
And I assume because like you also look to the members if they have ideas for programs, I assume.
we have a Native American committee. So
Yeah.
we have all of these diversity committees and they come up with great ideas like
Yeah.
this. This is one of the best panels I've seen, so.
Because I know, like, again, with New York SAG, I'm on the Writers Guild
Yeah.
Activities Committee, and it's come up with things that, benefit the, to the members. So that's why, like, within the I'm sure you have things that talk about all these new forms of how you self-tape, how you make things, and I think if that's the point as a member of these unions, you let them know how they can help you if they can, to, make you.
It only makes everybody stronger
Yeah.
if you can help every member learn these
Yeah.
new skills. Absolutely. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to agree with Marcia that SAG offers the conservatory at AFI, where you can take fantastic classes for months with the top people in their fields. And I'm telling you, take advantage of it, because you're also part of a pool of actors that the AFI students use.
Yes.
And they're all coming out of that school working. And it's a wonderful place, especially if you're coming back to the business, to get some really great training and to, network and all of that. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and they need more diversity. They really do.
Yes.
These are AFI students, and when they're like, we have a trans character, transgender character, but we don't have enough in our pool of people like that. So, just go in there. And people with disabilities, we have to remember that.
Yeah.
Within
I mean,
diversity.
casting directors really have been on the front line of the diversity issue. I was on a panel, I think, like in 1981 with April Webster, who's very involved with diversity. She's been doing this, because for us, it's a good actor's a good actor. If you're always looking for good actors. That's what you want. And so in any way that you can find them. It's bigger than diversity, because it isn't just limited diversity. It's just finding good actors of every kind are very important, and I really do applaud the organization, because it is the first organization that really made this a priority.
Excellent. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hi.
I thought she was pointing to her for, you'll be next.
Great, we know each other. Susan DeMonte, I'm a veteran actor, and now filmmaker.
Yay.
Yes, my short film, Repercussions, just screened next door. Got 3 awards so far at film festivals. It's my first time of writing and producing and giving myself a role. And so now I have this great 9-minute short, and my question is, I think my next step as an actor is to reintroduce myself to the casting community. Would going on IMDb Pro and sending my short to their email address be something that would work, or what would you suggest is the best?
Hey, Marcia.
Wait, to what email list?
It's not that. It's just the inundation. The problem you have is the inundation of things.
Right.
Do you have an agent at all?
I
Even a
just-
director agent or writer, or any kind of management?
Yeah, I just signed with a brand new agency in Texas.
That's
called
okay.
Spark Talent Agency.
You know what? That's okay. It's really interesting now how many talent agencies are springing up around the country, and how many people are with those agencies. Because it's so difficult here. And I would ask that you ask them to do that for you, because what starts to happen is that your inbox gets so full, you just can't do it. You can't do it. But the other thing too is, when you're up there and like casted in those places, you can link to it as well and put it on your IMDb page. There are lots of things to do. There's lots of other ways, by the way, to have your film be seen, and Catherine was talking about it, but, as a documentary film producer that I'm doing these days, I've learned about a lot of things that I didn't really know about, and this tremendous growth of ways to get your film, seen from, there's so many streaming platforms, and so many forms of distribution, and, Vimeo, is one form, but, just not just YouTube,
there's so many different ways, and I would urge you also to look into that and to find a platform, on the internet to get your short on.
I would also suggest that that 9 minutes is too long to ask anyone to sit down and watch for you as an actor.
I have a trailer.
A trailer, or even just pull out 30 seconds or a minute of you as the performer. And I would also say I agree with Marsha's approach completely, but I also think we all have to be scrappy, and we all are. If you can find the 5 or 10 agents or producers or whoever it is that you want to see this piece, and do a lot of research about them, call their office, get their assistant's email, and write them a short, lovely email, putting your Vimeo link in the email. Try it. Just try going directly to people and being very authentic and see what happens.
I can do that, thanks.
And also take advantage of like social media, just in terms of using that to connect, not that way, but just connecting to people, putting your stuff out there, using Instagram effectively, Facebook, and like throwing it up on IMDb. That's what I thought you were saying, is like IMDb, you put your reels, you put your shorts, you could do it there. So if somebody does go to your page, it's interactive now. They can actually just sort of see you performing as when they're looking at what you've done. If they come
Or
across
on a
it.
Facebook page also that you can. I produced and directed, co-directed, co-wrote, and acted in a 10-minute film, and you put in your Facebook page, and many people, and then you submit it to all the festivals, and getting more accolades that you have.
But as Rachel says too, if you're doing it for your acting work, then focus just on your scene. And really, like a minute and a half. People have a really incredibly horrendously short attention span. I mean, they'll watch something for 10 seconds, and if it doesn't grab them, they don't stick with it. So for your acting, I mean, if you're putting it on as a director writer, that's different.
I think he has a question here.
And then,
Yeah.
guys, no, I actually said she could be next and then you.
Hi, my name is Flora Rubenhold, and I want to thank all of the women in this room, and especially the panel, for everything that you've done. I'm really, truly inspired. And as you mentioned, I'm not getting any younger, and I'm feeling that the millennials really need what we've got. And I'm feeling at this juncture that I really want to pay it forward in particular.
Yeah.
So, as in the words of one of the women characters in Marty, I'm 55 years old. Only I'm more than that. I'm 55 years old. I got strength in these hands. I want to be of use to someone. So with that in mind, very specifically, is there a specific forum or a think tank for older women? I've heard SAG mentioned, I've heard what you've mentioned.
There's a group called Greenlight Women who are of our generation, who've sort of moved away from an organization, like Women in Film, that are more friendly and supportive of our generation of women.
And what is that?
Greenlight Women.
Greenlight.
All one word.
Yes, Greenlight Women.
All one word, yeah.
But that's why I do think also like to that of like the siloing and the intersectionality, because that's where I just think, it's nice to hang around with your own, but I also think as creatives and artists, really understanding the world we live in, it is to get out of the comfort zone and just be with other people. And that's how I feel like initially I was like felt more insecure, and then I was like, it is like I just go wherever I want to go and feel uncomfortable as me and being my authentic self, and I think that's where people look. So I think it's that, but also just getting into as many communities as possible to connect with people, because like I'm a people collector and I make friends. I mean, that's I make friends with Uber drivers all the time, and and because it's any time where you're connecting. But in terms of what your ultimate goal is, like I say, like I never network. I just organically connect, and if I find something that connects me, I want to know that person, and they'll be part of my storytelling, or maybe somebody I want to work with. So that's why I just think if we all think less linear and just there's many paths to the same thing, and that's why I think sometimes when it's the thing you're not looking for is when you find what you are looking for.
That's really interesting, because sort of networking is like, I need you to do something for me.
Yeah.
And it never quite feels good.
Right.
To either party. But an authentic connection is very different. That's brilliant.
I think that's a nice way to, yes, thank you. I think we have time for one more question, and you can bring us home here.
Hit a home run.
Sorry, I'm
It's all right. You know,
I want to make it very clear,
we are
I really
open.
like men.
We're open to
We're
having you
interested in dudes that are interested in women's issues and older women. Thank you for being here.
Well, appreciate the information that was received here on this subject matter. It's a lot to take in, and I hope that as a representative of the male species that so, I'm here from SAG, Western New York, and my question is like, are there any resources with SAG for like career development, more intimate in a setting like this where
Like mentorships, you mean, or?
mentorships, career development, general questions.
Our SAG people, can our SAG people speak to that?
Yeah, everything's on conservatory.
Sign up tomorrow and go for it. 30 days. Take
every class.
For a whole year, it's $45 for the year, and well worth it. It's wonderful. Check it out.
That's amazing.
And are they offered in Los Angeles or?
They're offered at the AFI campus.
And online, right?
Wait, where are you located?
I'm in actually Buffalo.
Okay.
Oh, you're in New York.
He's in Buffalo.
Upstate New York.
But in New York City, the SAG, because I've been part of many initiatives that they've done, that SAG has done in New York. And a lot of it, like I was on a panel, which, one of the members, Lori Hamill, I don't know if you know Lori, because she does a lot of stuff in New York, which was all about helping actors. And they did a total workshop where the actors wrote their own content and had speakers come in on each stage of creating your own content. So that's a little bit closer, but I do know, like, there's a lot of outreach and ways to develop, and build community within the actors community in New York. I mean, I'm not part of it, but I've been part of those programs.
So we have something called SAG-AFTRA Foundation. It's in New York City, and they have a casting access program where they bring in casting directors like Marsha, and they come in and you do your work with them, and it's a smaller group. So this is called SAG-AFTRA Foundation. It's a nonprofit. It's not really affiliated with us, but it kind of is. So they have those kind of things and life skills for performers, right? How to budget your life. So all kinds of different classes that are intimate. The SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
And I think don't they do self-tape? You could self-tape there.
Self-tape there.
Yeah.
And you can watch their stuff online because they put everything on YouTube.
I think that's a great way to wrap this up. Thank you very much for our fabulous panelists.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the week.